here to speak to this man, not your security. You have failed me.
Thank you.
I've been a Labour voter my entire life. You have failed to be the opposition. You have failed to ask whether lockdown was functioning.
Just behind. Can we just
Do you understand?
True democracy is citizen-led. Politics needs an update. We demand a people's house. We demand a people's house. We are in crisis. We are in crisis. Our whole future. Definitely.
Keir Starmer finds himself in hot water, grappling with discontent within his party and a frustrated public. His shifting stance on critical issues like Brexit and immigration has many scratching their heads, particularly as migrant numbers surge, despite his pledge to curb smuggling. Douglas Murray has serious doubts about Keir Starmer's leadership, and he's not alone. What exactly is going wrong for Starmer? And why does Murray believe his downfall is inevitable? Stick around to find out. Before we jump into the video, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you're always up to speed on our latest breakdowns.
Every country, conservatism is different, isn't it? Because, among other things, the left is different. Because the choice given to the British electorate last December was either Boris Johnson's Conservative Party or the Labour Party of Jeremy Corbyn. Boris Johnson's government looks incredibly conservative simply because, well, not only because, but partly because it's not populated by, Mao-loving Marxists who thought that, broadly speaking, 1989 had been the saddest year of the 20th century. I mean, we were facing, it's easy to sort of laugh about it now in a way because we sort of saw the threat off, but we were facing a Labour led by the most extreme political ideologues of the far, far left that the Labour Party had ever been led by in its long and partly noble history. So from that perspective, Boris Johnson's government looks very conservative. I don't doubt at all that from other countries, including Australia at this moment, it doesn't look so. But this is where we are.
Starmer is caught between traditional Labour values and the desire for a progressive direction. Initially, there were high hopes for his leadership, but he has struggled to satisfy both camps. His indecisiveness, especially regarding Brexit, raises doubts about his ability to lead decisively. Murray takes a critical view of Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, especially when reflecting on the leadership dynamics that followed Jeremy Corbyn. According to Murray, Labour's shift from Corbyn's extreme left ideologies to Starmer hasn't exactly restored confidence. While Corbyn's leadership was seen as radically far left, Murray suggests that Starmer has struggled to present a clear, compelling alternative. Instead of defining Labour's future, Starmer's leadership feels like a muddled middle ground, leaving many unconvinced that he's capable of steering the party in a decisive direction. Murray's view underscores a deeper frustration with Labour's identity crisis under Starmer's watch.
I mean, it's very hard to summon up any care for which of the sort of creations that have been offered to the Labour Party's membership to vote for is. I mean, this, as you mentioned, this has been rumbling on since the December election. I mean, Keir Starmer is a dislikable but relatively competent figure who may well be the person who leads the party. As I say, it's hard to summon up much care for it. The rest of it, I mean, they all look like, including him, they all just look like, to me, like people who are playing an instrument that's gone out of fashion, or people playing some form of music long after interest in that form of music has passed, and not a particularly good form of music either, I might add. These people who've been having weird ideological battles about the nature of what being a woman is, I just look at this in the current crisis we're in and think, I don't know what you're for, really. I don't know. I mean, maybe I can try to make it more positive by just saying that, those of us who have lamented the lack of political talent in recent years have partly lamented it because this whole way in which, as you well know, we've set up our politics is to set up a politics that deliberately avoids all of the most important issues, and as a consequence involves itself in minimalistic, deeply fringe issues. And as a result, the talent doesn't go into politics. And throughout my entire lifetime, I've wondered why the political talent has been so clearly drying up.
Starmer's handling of immigration has been problematic. He attempts to balance welcoming refugees with addressing illegal immigration, but has failed to present a clear plan. Scrapping the Rwanda plan without a viable alternative has led to rising migrant numbers and dissatisfaction from both sides of the debate. Murray offers a rather bleak assessment of Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, expressing that it's hard to muster much interest or enthusiasm for the leadership contenders Starmer represents. While he acknowledges that Starmer is a somewhat competent figure, Murray argues that he, along with others in the party, seem outdated, like they're playing a tune that no one is interested in anymore. He draws attention to the internal ideological battles within Labour, particularly around fringe issues, which seem disconnected from the pressing concerns facing the country. For Murray, this fixation on irrelevant debates highlights a deeper problem: the lack of genuine political talent, a situation he believes has been exacerbated by a political system that avoids addressing the most important issues. In his view, Starmer's Labour Party is out of touch, failing to inspire or offer any real solutions.
Oh, you bet. I mean, David Lammy and Keir Starmer have shown double and triple standards just in recent days alone. Last week, Keir Starmer said that Britain would back Ukraine with giving them whatever was needed. That was the quote, whatever was needed for Ukraine to prosecute its war against Russia after the illegal invasion of Ukraine. At the same time as saying that they will give Ukraine whatever they need. And by the way, Britain is not going to give Ukraine everything it needs. Britain can't give Ukraine everything it needs. But that's what he says. Meantime, he's not even willing to sell the Israelis the things that they need to prosecute their war against Hamas. And that is for one reason alone. There is no sort of pro-Russian basis in the Labour Party that just would love to defend Russia. But there is a base within the Labour Party now, sadly, of people who think that you should just allow Hamas to win, allow the Palestinian extremists to win, and for Israel to lose in this conflict. And, what David Lammy has done is not just unbelievably treacherous to an ally, as the Speaker of the Knesset in Israel said a couple of days ago, citing Churchill's famous criticism of Chamberlain. Britain had a choice between war and dishonor, and it chose dishonor this week.
Murray's stance on Keir Starmer and David Lammy reveals a deep frustration with what he sees as hypocrisy within the Labour Party regarding foreign policy. He criticizes Starmer for offering unwavering support to Ukraine while simultaneously withholding necessary aid to Israel in its conflict with Hamas. Murray highlights this as a double standard, suggesting that the Labour Party has an internal faction that prioritizes a narrative sympathetic to Hamas over supporting Israel. By referencing historical figures like Churchill, he frames the current situation as a moral failing, arguing that Labour's approach reflects a broader unwillingness to confront pressing global challenges honestly. Murray's critique underscores a perceived inconsistency in Labour's foreign policy, which he believes undermines the party's credibility on the international stage. Starmer's efforts to appease factions within his party are backfiring, leading to disillusionment among supporters and uncertainty for undecided voters. His flip-flopping leaves people questioning his resolve and capability as a leader.
This arms sale change, this partial boycott by the British will have no meaningful impact on the war, but it will have a meaningful impact on Britain. Britain relies very considerably in much of its arms and security apparatus on Israeli intelligence and Israeli technology.
Murray raises an important point regarding the implications of Britain's arms sales policy and partial boycott of Israel. He argues that while this approach may not significantly affect the ongoing conflict, it could have serious repercussions for Britain itself. Murray highlights the UK's reliance on Israeli intelligence and technology for its own security and defense needs. He expresses concern about the potential consequences of distancing from a key ally, suggesting that the ramifications could be felt more acutely at home. His perspective underscores the interconnectedness of international relations and the risks involved in adopting a selective foreign policy that may undermine Britain's security interests. Starmer's centralization of power frustrates many MPs who feel sidelined. This top-down approach stifles open debate and dissenting voices, leading to a "my way or the highway" attitude within the party. Such an environment is troubling for an organization that values diverse perspectives.
I wonder, and I hope that they don't, but I wonder if the Israelis would like to play this game back at David Lammy. He will see in the coming days that his cowardly little move, appeasing this nasty little bigoted rump within his party, will please absolutely nobody. Because you know what, Rita? The Hamas wing of the Labour Party are not going to be content with a little bit of boycott of Israel. They want a total boycott of Israel because they want the destruction of Israel. Well, David Lammy will, again, to quote a famous line about appeasement, be feeding the crocodile in the hope that it'll eat him last. But it won't.
Discontent within Labour is rising, with some members openly calling for Starmer to step aside. Many feel disconnected from the party, leading to discussions about the need for fresh leadership. This growing dissatisfaction poses a serious threat to Labour's unity and direction. Douglas Murray's commentary on David Lammy's approach to Israel reflects a strong criticism of what he perceives as a dangerous appeasement of the far-left elements within the Labour Party. He argues that this move will ultimately fail to satisfy those factions, which he characterizes as seeking a complete boycott of Israel rather than a partial one. Murray's use of the metaphor about feeding the crocodile effectively illustrates his belief that appeasement will only embolden extremist views rather than quell them. He suggests that Lammy's attempt to placate the Hamas wing of the party will backfire, leading to further demands and greater division within Labour. His remarks emphasize the challenges Starmer and his leadership face in balancing internal party dynamics while maintaining a coherent and principled foreign policy. To wrap things up, Douglas Murray's sharp critique of Keir Starmer and the Labour Party reveals a party in turmoil. Starmer's leadership struggles to resonate, leaving many wondering what Labour truly stands for in a rapidly changing political landscape. Murray highlights the disconnect between the party's internal factions and the pressing issues facing the electorate, suggesting that Labour's identity crisis is deepening. Starmer's leadership struggles are reflected in poor election performances. Losing seats in traditionally Labour areas signals a disconnect between him and the electorate. His legalistic, cold demeanour fails to resonate with voters, further contributing to Labour's declining support.